Okay, welcome. We're going to begin a new series called Digital Assets through the world of Duchame. I'm going to start with this gated cloister rendering, which has 3 different iterations of the same script. I have it rotating here as you kind of take a look. Here's the script as we do it. I'm going to shut down the script right now. Here I'm going to disable, well, first of all, I have to take off my turntable. Otherwise I start having trouble. We'll just position that like that, and you can see what I've selected through it. I'm going to, take this off and hit disable, because that'll make script run a little faster. I'll take the 3 iterations and I'll put them in hiding, and I'll pull this back into perspective mode under shaded, probably to begin with. I'm going to show you how this geometry is put together. So hopefully it runs fairly fast. I have a point. I take that point and I move it up. And I have this registered in inches, so I'm actually moving that 18 inches up on the z-axis. I'm taking a pentagon, or a polygon at the bottom set to 3 iterations, and I'm blowing those apart, and then I'm joining after I cull out the last, because it will wrap around these points, and I will have 4 points instead of 3. I'll cull out the last index by -1, and then I will have lines that join that. Those lines will then have a point on them, and I will take that point and move it back and forth wherever I want. And in the sense, I will also build another set of points from the center to those points. And in doing so, I will grab another point system that I have control of points on there. And that will be my 3rd point of an arc. So I will take this point as an arc, the middle point, and the bottom point as an arc, and I'll end up with these arcs. You see what I end up with these. And I have parametric control over the bend in those, and of course they fold over, so you don't want to go too far, and you have a little bit of parametric control over the cool shape. That sense, I'll take a list item, shift list 1, so I will then use my loft options to bring them together as a very cool lofted form. I'll put it into a brep tool, and that should close the brep on the bottom. I just have to rotate around. And then I have a point, which is the center of the base plane of that. So I actually have, if you take a look here, I have the point being 1 and 0 again. Now that is the tool I'm going to use to come into here and build another point from that. Let me grab that. I'll have to activate this. Let's activate these, enable. And now what I'm able to do is grab that point in the middle. I'm able to move that as well in the Z vector, which should show some evidence way up here, because I've moved in quite a bit of direction, 72 inches, and I've drawn a line between that. That line will be brought in and piped later. But right now, I'm also going to mirror that, the brep that was before. So I have a top and bottom, join them both together, take a list item of those, and choose the 1 and 2 to bring together as a geometry. And I have a union. So this is now an object. And that object is another digital asset that I'm going to use over here. And in the final stages of it, which is going to take a little bit of time, I'm going to enable. You're going to see I can, let's just got to load up for a second before we get to the final one. And I'll just show you what's going on. So what I've done then in this final script, as you take a look, which is kind of cool, and we'll probably go in the top view now because that's a front view, because that's kind of a nice image. I then take those geometries, I grab points. Let me leave this for a second. Let me grab that. Well, I probably, to show this, have to keep it in perspective view. Yeah, so you can see along that tall pipe, I used perpendicular frames to go along there at a certain amount, 3 splits, 3 sections, 1, 2, 3. And then what I did with that was I grabbed my geometry and I oriented that onto those planes and chose that plane. And then I brought it even farther as a closed brep, as an object. I brought that to another orient on top of this structure. So here's the structure I have here. I have an x-axis, so I can orient vertical, and then I simply did a rotation of that. And if I keep both of them, if I keep this one and this one, I get a pretty good set, keeping the volume center and joining it together into a final one, which I will go to enable. And that should allow me, in a second, I hope I hit enable. Yes, that's just going to take a second to load up, because it's got a union both halves of it. And it does get a little larger script, but if you keep this separate, this is a nice gated thing that you then can orient. into kind of staggered ruins around a gravesite or something like that. And I think what I'll do is set up a line broken fence across the undulating plain in my first rendering, maybe half buried. And here it is. Let's right click on it, and there it is, previewed. And you've got a very cool piece of geometry that you can ghost onto a shape. You can take a look at it from different angles, the front view, the side view, whatever you want. And you also have some pretty awesome control over this. And although it takes 25 seconds to render with that many involved in it, which is quite a few, that's a long render. You can change the diameter of these. You can change the edges. You get a kind of forged funkiness that's pretty cool. And you can take that over the render and have some fun with it. Didn't mean to do top view, meant to do front view. So you can get a pretty cool rendering out of that. That's one awesome brep. And when you bake it, you'll find a piece of geometry that would be very difficult for you, and that'll probably take another 25 seconds to bake, but we'll bake it over into layer 4, make sure they're all unified, and we should get a pretty decent render. I don't think it'll take 25 seconds. Maybe it does. There we go. You got a pretty awesome scripted digital asset that's still trying to render out the sides. And every time I scan back, it's like, well, what do I need to do? And I'm like, that is a pretty nice piece of geometry. And I will take that now and say thanks for watching. I'm going to continue this digital asset series, and I'll probably use these kind of finial shapes. Let's just take a look here. Let's go into all 4 views and go down to standard. Leave that, right-click here. And let's just throw this one into rendered. Let's throw this one into, I don't know, artistic. That's going to take a second because it's got to do a technical drawing. But once it does all the technical drawing, you'll be able to pull this in the pen and ink. And I'll just center this one. Yeah, we got to hold up for a little bit. But what a great digital asset that it can change. And I can use this beautiful parametric gated cloistered fence. Very reminiscent of my trip to the MoMA in New York City and seeing that huge cloistered structure of wrought iron, which would be amazing. Of course, it's taken a little bit of time to render into that technical drawing. It's pretty complex geometry. But once it's done, have fun with it. It's something I probably never will be able to make in Rhino. Well, I could, but it would take me some time to get it as smooth as I could. You can see I have a nice pen and ink drawing of it now. If you leave this, you'll get the nice drawings. And then here, I'll just grab my technical so you can see what that one looks like from the top as well. So nice technical drawing, really beautiful forms, and really nice geometries. So thanks for watching, and nice shadows. Excellent. Hope you guys like it, and I'll keep this digital asset series going and putting it on my GitHub. Thank you.